keep in mind what I was going through here was jumping around throughout the plan.
Absolutely, yeah.
So there's more detail contained within the plan. Some of the things are come up in different sections
Sure.
of the plan. If I'm reading your question
Yeah,
right, is
absolutely. It was
yeah.
just how that's kind of presented, and you're right, I mean, we talked about it kind of on a one-page when it's 10-page chapter type thing. But they're better summarized within the
Yes,
portions of that.
each section, there's policy recommendations
Okay.
and things that come up in each section of the plan.
Excellent. And then I did have a question on the traffic counts that were used on page 79. Obviously, those were 2030 projections. I wondered if there was a summary of the traffic counts. I assume they had to have some base numbers from current that we might have, and maybe not part of this, but have as a presentation. I mean, I thought it was actually pretty shocking to project that there was, I can't remember, 49,000 cars anticipated through downtown on a daily basis in less than 15 years. So, yeah. Was that the current one as well?
Shows 9,140 cars on Third Road.
Well, and I'm looking at
this first page, this first chart.
I don't know if Dan
Page
has a-
79?
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
Yeah.
I was looking at 79, which were the projected ones. Is there one in?
There's one that has it.
The existing?
Existing count.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's something, the existing conditions analysis was done, like I said, on the front end, and we put a lot of that in the front part of the report. But if there's anything that you wanted to go back on, or you had a question on, we can certainly provide that for you.
Just to clarify, the existing transportation plan is on page 17.
Yeah.
It has
So it's there.
counts.
Okay, thanks, man.
And we can, you were asking if it's something that we could perhaps at a later meeting talk about, we can provide a little bit more detailed kind of understanding of the traffic, if you'd like that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Stu.
Yeah, thank you very much for your presentation. This is excellent material.
Thanks.
I'm kind of with Heath on this one. The policy recommendations are kind of embedded sometimes within statements of existing conditions, and sometimes it's a little bit difficult to be able to pull those out. I don't know if there's any way we could re-summarize, the exact set of policy recommendations for each section, and even a white paper would be kind of nice. Other than that, I was going to go and look at the land use plan, specifically page 53, and I'm looking at the southeast market determined growth area.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed to me, to a certain extent, I know that there's a lot of variables involved and other factors, but it almost seems like the group couldn't come to a consensus on exactly what they wanted, so it was just kind of a punt more than anything else in terms of future use. And to me, and I truly believe that Gardner's future is kind of tied to this area. We could talk about the northwest side, and we do have some infrastructure on the northwest side that allows us to put in residential. But if we have a commercial and office park and, high-end residential future, it's probably in this area. And so I'm kind of at a loss as to, why the decision was made to just kind of leave it and, move into, and define the other areas, but not look at the southeast side of things.
No, that's a fair question. And I know one of the discussions in one of the recommendations is to explore annexation for this area, so that the city does have control over the area, as opposed to, just letting it go and see what happens. The decision here in terms of the kind of the flexibility was one from a capacity and infrastructure, and the ability to service this area is an important component of whatever goes there. Certainly, if somebody came in with a development plan, I wouldn't say, well, let's wait and see what else comes in. If you have a good viable plan, that was part of the idea of when it was called market driven, was to just allow for that, so you don't get constrained by somebody does come in with a good plan and said, well, we're waiting because we want to hold off for this. It's just the market is in enough of a state of flux. This isn't just Gardner or the region. It is a regional issue. And if there's other things that come up down the road, and there's a lot of, if you're constrained on development sites elsewhere in the community, Certainly, this would be the area that would get all the focus. But there's a lot of opportunities elsewhere in the community, and you don't want to take away opportunity in one spot at the expense of another. So really, it was designed as much to really incentivize, and when I say incentivize, I mean it in the terms of allowing for opportunity as anything else.
Sure. I mean, from what I'm looking at is, you know, the discussion of highest and best use. And if you leave it as a vacuum that, you know, can be filled with anything, then anything can fill it. And so that was my concern more than anything else, is that, you know, from the perspective of future growth and being able to, you know, put this property to highest and best use that will best benefit the people in the city and enhance their quality of life. We need to probably have some further discussions on this and try to come up with an approach in the future that would address this area.
Oh, for sure, and that's actually why, I mean, if you look at that area in terms of the context of the entire plan area, it's pretty sizable.
It is.
And it's a pretty big area, and that's why we did support the idea of annexation. But again, the discussions, for sure, you want to have those discussions. You want to talk about, you know, what does it take to service that area from capacity, from
Infrastructure.
city services and infrastructure.
Yep.
But it could be an important area, and it could be an important area that grows, comes to fruition in 3 years, it could be 5 years, but at some point in time, it will likely need to be addressed, and there's nothing to stop the continued, you know, readdress it. If you look at it in the implementation, one of the things is to review the plan on a regular basis,
Yeah.
and that would be one of those items, for sure.
Mr. Mayor, I wonder if I can just respond to,
Certainly.
Councilmember Schutz, question. So, statute requires that we review the comprehensive plan annually.
Yes.
And so, what we anticipate doing over time is drilling down a little deeper in some of these areas where there is some of these questions about what is the future land use capacity, and also what are the options for serving infrastructure. And so that's something that could be done after the plan is adopted. I mean, it certainly should be done after the plan is adopted.
Mhm.
And as we learn more, it could call for updated plan,
Yeah.
whenever that's deemed necessary, as soon as a year or two.
I mean, quick question. The size of the southeast quadrant, I mean, what's the size of that in acres?
Well, when you look at the diagram, if you look at each, section, that's a square mile. So the sections are bounded by arterials. So if you look at 199th Street on the south, 191st Street on the north, Moonlight Road on the east, and Garden Road on the west, that's one section. And that's a square mile, which is 640 acres. So that gives you some idea of how immense this area is. These nodes around these interchanges that are shown that are envisioned as regional commercial, those are very large areas.
Yep.
I think it's
1 mile.
easy to miss the size of those and the type of growth that those alone would accommodate.
Mhm.
We're talking, so roughly about 4,500 acres.
I think that's about right.
Yeah, and we can
Do
give
we know
the
how
exact
many
measurement too,
property
but it's, yeah, I
Up
mean.
7 square miles.
Yeah.
Mike, do we know how many property owners are out there?
I don't know how many. There are a lot of residential property owners
Right.
along 199th Street on the north side of 199. A lot of the parcels are pretty large. I'd say over 80 acres in some cases under 160 acres. But there's kind of a pattern of ownership out there. There are some property owners that own multiple parcels that are pretty large.
Yes, go ahead, please.
So I'm assuming that these bullets under each one are the actual actions that you guys would suggest we kind of go for.
In which section, I'm sorry?
Well, just all of them. There's bulleted items that talk about the different items that we should be looking at, right?
In the implementation section, though?
Correct. all of them.
Okay,
Yeah,
just throughout the plan, you mean?
Yeah.
just throughout the
Yeah.